Good morning, everyone. Well, really, good afternoon. It's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday. My weekend was kind of a whirlwind, and it was kind of fun. It was a lot of fun, actually. Spent some time with my family and got to unwind and just take things at a slightly slower pace, which is quite a good change. Now, today, obviously, as you probably know, we are going to talk about the NDH20 versus the NAD HP50. And for shorthand, I'm just going to call the Neumanns either the Neumanns or the 20s, and the NAD probably the 50s, because I can't keep saying these letters, and I'm going to trip myself. I have a hard enough time saying monolith and mass drop, and I have to stop and think about forcing myself. What is that name, mass drop? So we're just gonna go with the numbers. I'm just being upfront right now because this is not gonna be a fun experience if I'm gonna be tripping over these manufacturers' names constantly. So before we get to it, I do want to say I'm just really thankful for all of you subscribers that have been interacting with me more and more. It really is a joy to talk to all of you and get your perspectives and have some discussion regarding all the various issues that we have discussed in the last week or so. Second, I just was notified that I have 99 subscribers now. 99, one shy of 100. And I remember saying maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago that I was at 78 subscribers, or maybe 60 subscribers, something like that. And all of a sudden, it has shot up exponentially. And I thank all of you for subscribing, and I thank all of you for commenting. I thank all of you for sticking in it with me and moving forward with my review process and accepting this is the lengthy process. This is just how it is. I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much to my 99th subscriber for subscribing. Equally to all the ones who came before and all who hopefully will come in the future. Let's get on with it, shall we? Okay. So a friend of mine gave me this playlist called V2 Heartbeats, and it's very nice. I've been listening to this on the Monolith, I was about to say Master Monolith THX AAA desktop amplifier with dual DACs and dual amplification modules. That's just part of the title of that amplifier, guys. It just rolls off the tongue. I have that connected to an A-B switch. One portion of the switch is connected to the 20s, which I have on my head. The other one is connected to the 50s, the NAD 50s, which are sitting here. So build-wise, look, this could not be a more different comparison. Build-wise, the NAD the 50s simply do not remotely cut the mustard. Cut the mustard? Is that a saying? I feel as if I've heard somebody say that before. This doesn't cut the mustard. It simply does not do it. The Neumanns are significantly better built. There's no doubt in my mind that the Neumanns would win every single contest when it came to build quality with any headphone sub $1,000 probably. It's rare to find a headphone that is built as robustly as the Neumanns. The Bears come close, but they don't fold up like the Neumanns do. As far as aesthetics go, that's a very personal decision. My opinion on it is that the Neumanns are beautiful in their simplicity, whereas the 50s, the NAD, are, well, they're consistent with their plasticky feel, meaning they look plasticky, they feel plasticky, and they also look a bit hideous, to be frank. It's not going to win any beauty contest. It'll lose a lot. It'll come in last place, let's just say. There are a few headphones out there that look as terrible as these two, except I will say the Verum ones look more ridiculous than these. And so that is not really a compliment to the NADs, but they certainly do not look as ugly as the Verum ones. Let's just get on with it, shall we? Let's move on. Let's do this. Let's lock and load. We are starting with our playlist, obviously, and we're going to mountains. And what are we looking for in mountains? Really, what we're looking for is that low rumble, and at the beginning of the song, and in the middle, when that crescendo hits, I want to hear the organ, and we want to figure out if all the various instruments that are happening get muddied, get distorted, lose out, and let's see how the NADs do compared to the Neumanns. And I have the Neumanns on right now, so let's start with those. Here we go. By the way, the volume is at negative 14.5. I will be controlling master volume through Spotify. So that rumble, and I've been quiet because I'm just trying to get some emphasis out of it. It's not easy. I've increased the volume to negative 6.5 to try to get some more out of this pair of headphones, even though they're not particularly hard to drive. Let's skip ahead a little bit and get to that middle. Here comes the crescendo. And everything up to this point sounds veiled, as if there's a bed sheet over the speaker. There's a good amount of rumble when the organ, all the instruments come in, because their frequencies mesh quite well and they create that distortion, which creates the rumble. So it comes off really well in the Neumann, but it's warm sounding, meaning there's not a lot of detail there. It's just buzzing or vibrating. And it's hard to differentiate other instruments. The organ comes out because the organ really is emphasized in the song throughout, but its frequency is not clear. And when all the other instruments come in during the crescendo portion, it gets lost. It doesn't really become muddy because the song throughout isn't really muddy. It just sounds veiled. Maybe that's the same thing. You might consider it the same thing. What I mean by veil is sound is coming, but there's a bed cover or a bed sheet or something right in front of that speaker, and whatever seeps through that bed sheet is what you hear, and that's the type of muffled sound that I get. Muddy to me is where frequencies simply just do not get recreated properly. Like there is no emphasis, there's no distinction, there's no separation. Then I say that's muddy. I think there is separation, and a decent amount of separation, but that veiled effect to the music takes a lot away from discerning the instruments. And the Neumanns have been consistently bad with this song on this. So go and listen to Mountains if you get a chance. And if that's the type of song that you are going to produce or you want to listen to, or it's part of your playlist, it's something that you think that is going to be part of your soundtrack that you listen to every day, then the Neumanns are not going to give you detail on this. They're not going to be enjoyable with this type of music. And you just need to be aware of it in case you think that the Neumanns, based upon other people's recommendation, are going to give you that hyper detail for a song like Mountains. In my opinion, that's not true, and certainly has not been my experience every time I've tested the Neumanns on this song. All right, so let's skip. Let's go to The 50s, the NAD HP50. Can you hear this? You may not be able to hear it, but that's the plastic. That's the plastic. Whatever. Let's put this on. And it sits fine on my head. There's not much clamping force at all. And there isn't consequently any sound isolation. There's a little bit because it's close packed, but nowhere close like the Neumanns provide. Let's start with the song, and I may have to keep this at 50% because the 50s are very, very easy to drive. Here we go. See, that tick-tock immediately sounds cleaner to me than it did on the Neumann. And that rumble, it's a good separation between the rumble and the tick-tock. Clean, it's the way I would describe it. There's no distortion at all. And it sounds deep. Like there's this string instrument of some sort somewhere in the background that builds up slowly, and it feels like it's somewhere in the background. Very clean separation of the instruments so far. We haven't even gotten to the middle, so we'll see then. It's a very clean, clear, inoffensive sound. Whereas the Neumann sounded veiled, the 50s sound unveiled. They're just good. There's no murkiness to the song, no muddiness. Nothing gets lost or appears to be lost. Let's skip ahead to the middle and get to that crescendo. Very clean separation amongst the instruments. Holy cow. Holy cow. Holy cow. Okay. Now that was something else. Okay, let me try this again. This cannot be the case. I gotta do this again. Okay, so I'm gonna put the 20s back on my head. I'm gonna start in the middle where the crescendo starts building up, and I'm gonna listen to the crescendo, stop, go back to the middle, put on the 20s, listen to the crescendo again. Then I'll give you my impression. Here we go. I have the 20s on my head right now. Switching to the 20s. Shit! Son of a motherless goat! That just fucking happened. Oh, shit. Pardon my French, but that could not be more of a difference if I had tried to influence this. What the hell is this? Okay, calm down. Here we go. So the Neumann's muddy compared to the 50s. Do you get that? They sound muddy compared to the 50s. Now, I've been saying that the Neumanns sound veiled, and that's the impression I've been getting consistently. But listening to the 50s, it's like it's a completely different world. There is significant more clarity in the 50s. And when you get to the crescendo, you get to the organ and all the instruments just kind of hit and they all increase in volume to their maximum volume. Here's how the Neumanns handle that. The Neumanns sounded as if you were closed off. You're cupping your head, your ears, and everything sounds muffled. There's not significant separation of the instruments. There's not a whole lot of definition to the instruments that have been separated, and it just it's a very relaxed sound signature that I get from the Neumann. Consequently, it's a very undetailed signature that I get from the Neumann. In comparison to the 50, every single instrument, I swear to you, every single instrument sounded separate. Every single one. How is that possible? Not only did the organ come out, it didn't drown out anything else. It didn't drown out all the other stuff that was going on. These headphones, the 50s, were actually able to maintain the separation of the frequencies amongst all these instruments. I maxed these things out on volume any louder, and I think either the driver would blow or my ear canal would. You could probably hear the song because the headphones don't have a tight clamping force at this max volume, but the bass on the 50s, it was gyrating the ear cup, and on the right ear cup only. I mean, I could hear, it was a stereo sound, but I could hear the emphasis in the right ear cup of that bass, and I could feel the gyration on the right side much more than on the left side. And there were instruments that were more present on the left than were on the right. That's amazing soundstage. How is that possible? Out of all the headphones we have tested so far for this song, on this song, I think, and this is again based upon memory, and memory is faulty when it comes to sound, but I think that the 50s have outdone every single one of those headphones so far. And they clearly have beaten the Neumanns hands down. There's not even a remote possibility that the Neumanns outdid the 50s. No way. And there's not even a remote possibility that the Neumanns equaled the 50 on this song. That is not what happened. Clean differentiation. The Neumann sounds muddled, veiled, and closed off. The 50s sound clean, clear, distinct, open. It just sounded more open than the Neumann. It has now that soundstage for this song is not a whole lot more than on the Neumann, but it is noticeably more, and it sounds like there's more when all the instruments are separated and they're clean. That gives the impression of greater depth and width than there actually is. Wow. By the way, excuse me for cussing. I told you that the first time I put on the 50s would be when I was doing the comparison test. When I said that during my unboxing, I think, or when I told you I had purchased the headphones. And so this is literally the first time I've sat down and listened to them. This is my reaction. This is what I probably would have said if I was just sitting here listening to this stuff myself, not recording. So my apologies if this offended you. I'll try to be in much more control, but this is live feedback, essentially. Oh, man. Okay. I'm going to put the contender down, and I'm going to put up the Neumann. And I'm going to put the Neumann on my head, switching to AB. I'm going to listen to Want You Back by Him, which is supposed to have a slightly more emphasized midtones. mid-frequency because the vocals are supposed to be a little bit more forward than the instruments. However, the Neumanns simply don't present it that way. As we've said, the Neumanns present vocals in a recessed manner compared to the other frequencies. Here we go. I have the Neumanns on my head. There's a clean separation, there's a clean separation of the guitar and her vocal and the piano, but it's a very simple mix right now. It starts getting more complicated right about this point in the song with multiple vocalists. There's supposed to be two other vocalists in the background, so 3 total. With the Neumann, it sounds like 2. The primary and the backup vocalists just meld their voices together. And at this portion of the song, around 35 seconds to 42 seconds, she's singing, the primary vocalist sing, just know that I want you back. And the backup singers are echoing her. The backup singers are really soft on this headphone. I can barely hear them. And when I do hear them, they both come out at the exact same frequency. So there's no separation of their voices. That's a problem if you're looking for detail and if you are hoping to find if you're hoping to find in your mix what the background singers sound like. If your headphones can't produce that, then you're going to be, one, either very angry at your backup singers because they ain't doing their job. That might be your first inclination. Or 2, you will realize that the headphones you purchased were recommended by Z Reviews by Zeos Pantera, and you will kick yourself in your butt and say, that's why I should quit my job because I listen to Zeos. And Zeos is a shill. Oh, I'm sorry, I went off track. Moving forward. So the vocal here is well suppressed in respect to the higher frequency. Her voice can get sibilant because she says the S S letter. Words and letters. I don't know why I get those mixed up. She says the S sound several times at the beginning of the song, and the Neumann simply cut that out, so it will never, ever become ear-piercing, even at high volume as I am playing it on the Neumann. That is the benefit of having the Neumann, but the downside to that is if you can't hear when a song is sibilant, then you're gonna master it, you can produce it, it's gonna get sent out, and other people are gonna find it very sibilant. Unless, of course, you know that the Neumanns act that way and you are able to compensate accordingly, knowing that the Neumanns don't give you the actual reproduction of the higher frequency. You just have an idea of what it's supposed to sound like. So that's a lot of mathematical stuff that you're doing inside your head and trying to figure things out on the fly. And it's not easy with a pair of headphones that simply don't help you get along with the sound that you're supposed to be hearing. Okay, let's keep going for a few more seconds. Yeah, here's the thing. I can't enjoy this song on the Neumann. I can't. I feel like I'm stuck inside a closet listening to this on decent pair of speakers. I just muffled, veiled, not much distinction. There's no real anything to the song. The sparkle in the highs, although I hate sibilants, and I think a lot of people do not like sibilants when they hear it. Even though that happens, I want to be able to take the headphone to that point and then dial down the volume a little bit and just find a nice spot where I can still get most of the detail and not have all of the sibilants, all the peaky piercing frequency. But if you have a pair of headphones like the Neumanns that will never even allow you to do that, or will make it very difficult for you to do that, then now you're just, Now you're stuck with a pair of headphones that will not help you um, experience the song the way you want to experience it. You're constantly fighting the headphone. That's probably the better way to say it. You're fighting the headphone, trying to get it to do what you want it to do. And the headphone should not be that way. No tool should be fighting you. You shouldn't put down your hard-earned money and then kind of work out an agreement with the tool to actually do what you want it to do. It feels like I need to draw up a contract with the Neumann NDH 20 so that it and I can have an understanding and be legally binding. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the contender. Back to the 50s. On my head. Let's start again. Here we go. Oops. Hold on. I didn't switch the AB. I constantly forget that I have an AB switch right next to my hand. All right. This time for real. Oh. Her voice just jumps out. The guitar and piano are clean. There's a resonance to both the guitar and the piano, and it sounds different to me. Holy cow. Holy cow. When the backup singers come in around 20 seconds into the song, on the Neumanns, they sound exactly the same and muted. On the 50s, one is on the left, one is on the right. They both have very different tonality, and I can hear it, and they're both not singing exactly at the same time. They're a second off of each other. What? What just happened? I have seen the music video to this song. It's an interesting music video. They don't really do much. They just walk down an empty street, which is kind of cool if you listen to the song. Anyway, if you go on YouTube and you look for the music video for this song, here's what's going on. So the primary vocalist is dead center, and she's walking down the middle of the road, and then she has her two backup singers walking about 2 or 3 steps behind her, and that's how it's presented on the 50s. What? The Neumann didn't do that. The Neumann just kind of just threw it at you. There you go, do this, blah blah blah. I'm gonna give you sound, is what the Neumann says. Fine, I will give you something. Whereas the 50s are saying, hold on, hold my beer, I'll get this. And they give you the sound. They give you the separation. They give you the detail. What? I'm flabbergasted. How is this possible? How is it possible that this cheap plastic headphone is seemingly outdoing the Neumann? Okay. Well, let's keep going. Here we go. Okay. Slight thing. Let's go back to about 25 seconds. She has a little rumble to her voice, the primary vocalist, and I thought I heard it with the 50s. It's a micro detail. Let's see if maybe it was just my imagination. Here we go. Nope. It was there. Let's go back to 20 seconds. It's actually at 25 seconds that micro detail comes out. It's that rumbliness to her voice, and when she's saying and it's like the letter A is cracking in the back of her throat as she belts it out. Here we go again. Yep, it's there. It's not overemphasized, but it's quite telling at high volume. Now, if I take it down to about 25% volume on Spotify, let's see if I can pick it up as easily. Yeah, it's still there. It's just at a lower volume, but it's still distinct and it's clear. It doesn't get muddy. That's the crackling of her voice. It cannot be anything else. But let me try that with the NDH 20. NDH 20. Keep getting. Hold on. Hey, Chucky, come on, buddy. It's all right. Sorry about that. Charlie is a little upset about something. Okay, so back to 20 seconds. All right, here we go. Switch to Neumann. Yeah, so I've kept this at lower volume from the 20s, and it does come out, but it's more smooth, more suppressed than it was on the 50. Let's try it again. This time I'm going to increase the volume to near max. Yeah, it still comes out, but it is significantly less pronounced than on the 50. And by significantly, I missed it the first time. I only heard it on the 50s, and the 50s produced that cracking very distinctly. It was a detail that came out immediately, and here I am hunting for it on the Neumann. Okay, let's go back to the 50s because that's what we were listening to. Charlie is now next to me inspecting. He also does not believe what is happening here. Here we go. At this portion of the song, all three are singing together. The primary vocalist is directly in front of everything else. Her voice comes out more pronounced, even with all the instruments playing. The backup vocalists also come out. They're several steps behind her on the sound stage, but they also still retain their individuality. Meaning that their voices are still distinct from hers, even with the entire mix into the song at that portion. So again, at this point, around 1 minute and 30 seconds, primary vocalist says something, backup singers repeat it, and it comes out differently on the left versus the right because they're two different singers, left and right. So it's a very good presentation. So what I can say about it, without repeating myself about this song, the NDH 20s simply do not produce the midtones in a natural manner, or at least as it was supposed to be recorded. And I am now convinced that Want You Back was recorded to have the vocalist more focused than the instruments. Like the vocalist is supposed to be the primary instrument that's supposed to come out in the song. It's supposed to be ahead, in front of the soundstage, so to speak. And the 50s actually do produce that. Her voice is clean, it's clear, it doesn't get sibilant. You know, let's go back to the very beginning, and I want to hear on the 50s how sibilant they do become, if at all. And I'm going to increase the volume as she's singing so I can figure out where it becomes too sibilant. Here we go. Right there. So this is about, I don't know, I'm having to guess. It's negative 6.5 decibels on the monolith, and this is about 80% volume on Spotify. So you do the amorphous math here. At that volume, it does get sibilant and a little ear piercing, but anything below that was well controlled. Whereas with the Neumann, I had it even up to max on both, negative 6.5 on that and max volume on Spotify, and I couldn't get it sibilant. Now, to some people, that's a good thing, but to other people who want to find that detail and want to fine tune it, that's a bad thing. And here you are, you just saw me do that with the 50s, where I can fine tune it and say, okay, that's the threshold. I'm going to come back a little bit from that. Yeah, that's something you that's an option that people should have with a good pair of headphones. Well, okay. Now let's put the 20s back on my head. And by the way, I just got a notification from YouTube that now I have my 100th subscriber. Thank you so much, the 100th subscriber. And who is it, by the way? I don't know. Who is it? It didn't tell me who it was. Or here it is. Yeah, Lobo Rojo 777, number 100. Well, thank you, Lobo Rojo. That's very nice of you. I appreciate your viewership and your subscription. And I hope that you're finding this video very entertaining too, because I am. I'm having a blast, guys. Let's go on to Angel. I've got the 20s on my head, and as we know about Angel, it's got that electronic nonsense. Not as big as nonsense as Dreamer, but there's a lot of electronic stuff that's bass heavy, and there's a rumble and with headphones that can't handle bass, this song will fall apart very, very quickly, and it will get muddy and distorted. Let's see how the Neumanns handle it. Here we go. I can hear that rumble in the background. And then there's the actual drums that come in. They sound distinct and different, but not sharp. Like that drum that's being played is not sharp. It's very smooth, as if you put a bed sheet on top of the drum head and now you're playing on it, on the drum. I skip a little bit ahead to get to the vocal. Now it's getting a little bit more mix in here, more drums, more electronic guitar, more buzz. And the only thing that's really coming out is the drum and that electronic guitar. So this vocalist, his voice sounds so hollow on this song. The entire song sounds hollow, like it's being played inside a shipping container. It's a very steely, kind of weird presentation. I really dislike it. Okay, so let's go to the 50s. And let's try with the 50s. Here we go. Okay, let me try again because I didn't switch the A-B switch once again. The rumble is much more pronounced than it was on the 50s or on the 20s. That bass hit is much more impactful, clear soundstage. There's like this cymbal thing that happens. Let's go back to about, I think it happens at 15 seconds. Let's see. Right there. Between 17 and 19 seconds, there is a cymbal or some sort of other instrument that's being played, and it happens in the left ear cup, and I can hear it. Like and it goes off into the ether. You hear it, and it just kind of floats away. It's a really cool sound. I'm not sure I heard it on the Neumann, so let me go back. I'm going to switch back to the Neumanns and listen to it. And I'll put the Neumanns up to max volume if that helps them. Here we go. Yeah, it does come out of the Neumanns as well. It's just not as clear as it is on the 50. Does it come out at 50% volume on the Neumann? Let's see. It does. It does come out 50% volume, but very smooth and kind of indistinct. It's almost as if it's an afterthought for the Neumanns to produce that detail. Whereas with the 50, it says, there is detail here, and I will give it to you. That's the mentality. If these headphones lived, if they were alive, if they were animate objects, if this was Toy Story 5, then, and the headphones were toys, yes, that would be the mentality. The 50s would be the Buzz Lightyear of headphones saying, to infinity and beyond, and I will put my best effort in. And the Neumanns would be something like somebody who's lazy. I don't remember any of the other characters in that movie. I watched it when I was a kid. All right, back to the 50s. Let's keep going with the song. Let's skip ahead so I can get to the vocal. This song does not sound hollow. It seems much more. This is just a very personal, subjective statement I'm about to make. This song on the 50s sound much more full, less steely. Even though there is more distinction and clarity and separation and soundstage, the 50s produced this song with more passion than the Neumanns do. It's not rolled off in a higher frequency. It's not being overly polite. It's just a headphone that's giving you the details. Maybe NAD boosted the frequency range so you're getting a lot of that stuff. I don't know, but it sounds really good, and I'm getting all that detail, especially in the bass. Yeah, I mean, it's, oh, God. The Neumanns simply do not do well on this song, for the reasons I've already stated. The 50s is a night and day experience, in my opinion, where the 50s just take the song and say, I got this. Neumann, you're having some difficulty. Let me handle this. You sit this one out. And they provide the clarity, the soundstage, the separation, the definition, and the detail. My God, the detail is astounding compared to the NDH 20s. It's just so much more detail. And while I'm doing this, people are sending me text messages. Yes, let's do Scherzo for X-Wings. Let's do that. That would be next. The 20s are in my head. Let's do it. Here we go. Because of all the wind instruments, brass instruments that are involved with this mix, it's supposed to give you the live presentation. Good headphones are supposed to make orchestra music sound as if you're right there listening to it. And the 20s simply don't do that. The 20s are much too polite. They do not allow the song to get sibilant or peaky or ear-piercing, which it should at high volume. It absolutely should, because that when you're sitting in a theater and you're listening to orchestra and you're sitting up close to the stage, your ears will start hurting after a little bit. I mean, there are some instruments with such ear-piercing frequency that, at least to me, in my experience, become like ice picks inside my eardrums. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, oh God, please stop, please stop, please stop, no more. And the Neumanns, what they do is the Neumanns say, I will not allow these to ever harm you. and they cut off that peakiness, which is a consistency among all the songs that we've heard with the Neumanns, not just today, but in the past several days. And as far as the separation goes, there's good separation amongst the instruments, just not a whole lot of definition. It sounds almost like, it sounds a bit too muddy on this song. Like the frequencies are not separated enough for me to say that's one instrument, that's another instrument in the same section. The separation amongst individual instruments. And that's, I have to admit, that is hard to do. And the Neumanns simply don't even put any effort into it. That's the impression I'm getting. Let's keep playing. It's a polite presentation of the song. It's as if somebody had never gone to the orchestra and was afraid of what it could do to their eardrums, then they should sit down and listen to it with the Neumann. And they should come to first to appreciate that there is much to be learned from an orchestra. And then they should be given an opportunity to actually go and sit at an orchestra and listen to it and get the real experience. The Neumanns simply do not give the real experience. That's my opinion. Now let's go to the 50s and see if they give you anything different from the Neumann. Okay, it's on my head. Let's start again. Here we go. Much more soundstage, I would say. Depth to the soundstage, front and back, left and right. Oh, that's ear piercing. Ha. Oh my god, it's so much clearer. Each song, each instrument seems to have its own frequency. So clean and undistorted. It doesn't sound muffled at all. Hey now. So here's what the 50s do. They make you feel as if you're sitting at the orchestra. Wow. Or at the very least, you're listening to this song on really excellent loudspeakers in a room that is acoustically designed for you to get the details. And you're sitting at the perfect position, and that sound is coming right at you. And you're just taking it all in. You're swimming in all that detail and sound and texture. Vague terms, yes, I know. So this is as close as we've gotten so far in all our testing of headphones. There are plenty of other headphones to test, I admit. But this is the closest we've gotten so far, I think, to say that a pair of headphones has made me feel as if I'm sitting at the orchestra listening to John Williams conduct this song. It's the 50s, man. It's the 50s. It's the closest I have ever been so far amongst all the headphones we've tested to this point. Whereas the Neumanns are much more polite and they round off the higher frequency and they kind of smooth everything out in the tonality. The 50s just present the frequencies as they come. There is no politeness about it. They're not rounding anything off at the higher register. There might be a slight boost to the bass. I will admit that now at this point, after 4 songs, it appears to be that there is indeed a boost to the bass, slight warmth to the song, but it doesn't seem to be affecting anything else. It's not muddying the waters, so to speak. It's not making the other frequency ranges sound distorted or colored, uh, and I don't know what to say. I am flabbergasted that the 50s sound as good as an excellent pair of loudspeakers. We're not talking about money here. We're just talking about a good, excellent pair of loudspeakers. My Canto powered speakers do not produce the same quality sound as the 50s do. In fact, my Cantos get a little distorted, a little weird with the higher frequency at high volume. And here with the 50s at max volume, I just did in front of you, at max volume, retain that clarity and that distinction and that differentiation amongst all the instruments. It has the emphasis for each of the frequencies that those instruments cater to. I was good. The 50s did really good on this song. Which one should we do next? You want to skip ahead to Flight from the City? Let's do that. Let's do Flight from the City. We know for a fact that the Neumanns have never, ever done well with piano. But for the sake of fairness, let's try it again. Let's do Flight from the City. Neumanns are in my head. Here we go. It just sounds so closed off and yucky. It's just too much distortion with the piano. There's no airiness to it. There's no reverberation to the piano strings. And that thumping sound that should be present, that is a detail in this song. When the pianist pushes down on the keyboard, there's that thunk thunk sound. Strangely enough, the Neumanns reproduce it in a distorted way. They distort the thunk thunk sound. It doesn't sound solid. It doesn't sound like a real thunk. It's just like a thud. That's what it sounds like, a thud. As if the Neumanns were like, I give up. I'm not even going to try. Most other headphones we've tried with this song have really well articulated that micro detail of the thunk thunk, except for the Neumanns, for whatever strange reason. Now here you have this, I think it's a cello that's coming in. It's smooth, it's very smooth. It just doesn't sound airy and alive. There's not much soundstage at all with these headphones. Okay. Let's switch to the 50s. Here we go. Automatically, immediately, the piano has much more reverberance to it. It sounds more airy. Noticeably more soundstage and width to the sound. The thunk-thunk sound on the 50s, I'm trying to listen for it. It's coming out. It's just not particularly pronounced, that thunk-thunk. Strangely enough, the 50s don't put an emphasis on it. It doesn't sound distorted like the Neumann. It's just not as pronounced as I've heard it in other headphones. Now here's the cello. Sounds more airy. Whoa, 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 whoa. Time out. There's more than one? There's more than one cello? More than one string instrument? That's what I'm hearing right now. What? Let's keep playing. Yeah, it sounds like there's at least two. Okay, let me go back to the 20s and see if I missed it, maybe? No, it's there. In the 20s, it is there at max volume. At 50%, I can't tell that there is, in fact, there are at least two string instruments, at least two cellos or whatever. On the 50s, I could tell. It's fairly clear to me. On the 20s, it's like it's like they're just not separated enough. Like, I knew what I was looking for at this point, so I was listening for it, and I heard it, and then I was trying to analyze why is it not coming out like it did on the 50s. My first impression is that because the frequency is not particularly well separated, you're not hearing the two. You're hearing a combination of two as one, and that may add a little bit to the distortion effect that I'm getting. Is that if instruments don't have their separation, their own particular characteristics, and they all melt together, that's going to cause it's going to cause distortion, right? At least I would think so. I don't know. Clearly, the 50s do a significantly better job reproducing the song than the Neumann. Now that's subjective, number one, because I enjoyed a lot more on the 50s, but I think it's also objective because I'm telling you there's a lot more airiness to the song, more detail, more separation. And the one thing that was kind of missing is that thunk that I've heard so much more pronounced in other headphones. And even on the Neumann, that thunk is a little bit more pronounced. It's just distorted. Whereas on the 50s, it is not as emphasized, but it's also not distorted. So what would you prefer? I would prefer not distorted. And I will be happy with not getting that extreme amount of emphasis on that micro detail of the thunk. Let's go to 1,000 Years. I still have the Neumanns on my head, which 1,000 Years is also a piano heavy song. It's by the piano guy, so it should be. Here we go. It sounds closed off, like you're in a concrete bunker. And there's a string instrument. Is this a violin, maybe? It sounds like it's being played inside of a sarcophagus. How I would know that as a fact, I don't know. I've never been inside a sarcophagus, but this is what I imagined it would sound like. Muffled and blah. It's smooth. I will give it that. It just sounds weird. Anybody, even if you have never heard the Piano Guys before, and I had never heard the Piano Guys before, I put it on the playlist and I stumbled onto them. If you've never heard a violin before, your ears understand distortion. Your mind understands distortion. And the violin just comes out a little distorted, weird. It's kind of this weird. How do I put it into words? It's not only muffled, but it's also suppressed. It just sounds like it's been. The frequency is just kind of putty, and it's been hammered down. You can't really get the essence of the violin. It just doesn't sound good on the Neumann. Let's go to the 50. How do the 50 perform? Hit play. Much more airiness. Clearly two pianos playing in conjunction. Soundstage left and right and front and back. Oh, ho, ho, ho. There's more than one string instrument? Ugh. Okay, I gotta stop. If I keep finding more instruments every time I put on the 50s, we're gonna be here all day. It's already been over an hour. I can't. Okay, so the Neumanns, I just thought I heard a violin or a cello or whatever the hell that thing is. And on the 50s, I'm hearing there's two instruments at least? Two string instruments? Let me go back and double check. Here we go. Still have the 50s on. There are two pianos. Yes. It's like a guitar or something that's playing just behind this violin or cello, whatever it is, and it's strumming. Much more airy. There's. Oh my god. Undistorted, clean, crystal clean, and crystal clear definition amongst all the instruments. No muddiness at all. It does not sound veiled. It doesn't sound like I'm sitting in a sarcophagus having to listen to this. And at this volume, right here, master volume here, you see this? About 80%. There's a lot of detail in the piano. The 50s make everything sound much wider, much more articulate, much more enjoyable. It's exponentially better. That's how I would put it. That's the impression, my personal impression is it just sounds exponentially better on the 50s than it does on the 20s. For specifically these two songs, for The Flight from the City in 1,000 Years, because the Neumanns simply cannot reproduce the piano frequency and the strings as they're supposed to be produced. Whereas the 50s in comparison, they're just, it's a night and day difference. The 50s I will pick up every time. If I have to choose between these two, I will pick them up every time when I have to listen to a piano-centric song. All right, what should we try next? Let's do a drum solo. Let's test the bass again. And as you know, in drum solo, there is the crowd comes in at the very beginning of the song. It was recorded so poorly. It comes early in the song, and it pierces your ears on some headphones. I know that the Neumanns do not allow that to happen. We've done this test before. So let's listen for that again, and let's listen for the impact of the drum, then compare to the 50s. Here we go. I have the Neumanns on. See, the drums sound muffled, like somebody put a carpet, a rug over them, and now this poor drummer has to hit on the drum and try to produce sound. It's good. It's in the sense that it doesn't hurt your ears. It's smooth to listen to. It's simply not accurate. There's no reverberation in the ear cups. There's no ear piercing, no peakiness at all. Everything is just smooth. Soundstage is okay. It's not particularly wide. It sounds as if you're in a closed room. Like your living room, for example, will probably sound very similar. And that probably adds to the muffled effect. Let's switch to the 50s. Here we go. 50s are on my head. Actually, let me increase the volume so I can really figure out if my ears get blown away for the audience here. Here we go again. Ouch. Ow. Oh yeah, that hurt. Holy cow. So with the with the drums, what happens is that when he's hitting, it sounds like there's more to the drum. Like there's a deepening of the drum. It sounds like, okay, so if you've ever heard a drum in real life, what happens is you hear that first crack, and that's the first ear piercing thing, and then you hear this bottom just drop out. Like there's like a boing, like boing, that sort of sound. I'm doing a terrible imitation, I know, but bear with me. It's like you hear the sharp hit and then boing, because the air is being pushed down into the drum. And wow, the 50s actually produced that very specific sound characteristics that drums tend to have. The Neumanns, they just kind of sound like, as I said, the poor drummer is sitting there having to hit the drums while the drumsticks are hitting on a very thick rug. The 50s don't seem to, they don't do that. Let's keep playing. Let's keep going. Significantly more soundstage left and right. Clean, clear, undistorted. Oh, ouch. That is very detailed drum. Not flat at all. This is interesting. So here's the thing. First off, the 50s blow the Neumanns out of the water. There's no doubt about it. The drum reproduction on the 50s. Hey, come on. It's all right. Charlie heard something. Probably a cat about 3 miles away. Okay, buddy. So here's what the 20s do. The 20s, they reproduce the bass, the drum, and they do it in such a kind of a weird, muffled way that you lose a lot of that detail because they're smoothing that frequency range. In comparison, the 50s simply do not smooth anything out. And when the drum starts hitting, when he starts riffing around 50 seconds of the song, Okay, so we're back. The problem is that there are a lot of noisy kids playing outside, and the dogs simply do not enjoy that. Neither do I. I've had to bribe the dogs into staying quiet for the next several minutes as I finish this up. So my apologies. The dogs also apologize in their own particular way. Where was I? Okay, so the drum solo. So what I was saying is that the 50s simply give you a much more visceral reaction to it. And the reason the reason I seemed shocked is because that visceralness is similar to the visceral impact on the Atticus or the XC. Now, it's not the same. I am not saying that. I'm not saying that the NAD HP50 has the same type of bass impact and reproduction as the Atticus and the XC. That's not true. It's just that it is so much closer to that than the NAD or the NDH 20s were. And that's something that you just gotta. One of the things that I need to emphasize is that between these two headphones for this drum song, there is no. It's not a head-to-head thing. It's not like, oh, it's a photo finish. It's not like, oh, well, at the end of the day, it just comes down to your preference. It's not that. If you want clarity, distinction, you want to have all the detail, the 50s are hands down the better headphone of the two. No doubt in my mind at all. That's my personal subjective opinion, but based upon this test and the way that the 50s reproduce the song, I just can't come up with a different conclusion. The 50s win. Let's go to one last one. So let's go to New Light by Kazuki. And I'm going to put on the 20s. Here we go. So New Light has a lot of micro detail, the wind rustling, footsteps, children playing in the back. Not these children, not the ones that are making the dogs angry, but nice children. And you can hear the rustling of the grass, and there's a soft piano that's playing in the back and some guitar, very soothing. It's supposed to be open and airy and wonderful and inviting. And the Neumanns do the opposite, where it just sounds steely and closed, and the detail about the kids playing in the back is lost. It's hardly there on the 20s. I can't really hear the rustling of the wind, and I certainly cannot hear the footsteps that are present at the beginning of this song. It's not particularly clean or clear. It starts getting muddy fairly quickly when the mix gets more complicated. And this is not a complicated song. You have a soft piano and a guitar strumming in the background. You have this synth kind of high frequency that's playing also in the background. Then you have the micro details of the wind every once in a while, the grass, and you can supposed to hear some of the kids playing in the back in certain portions. So it's not a complicated song. It's just one that has layers to it, and it's not a whole lot of layers to begin with. Well, it's more than 3. So I guess the Neumanns say that's too much for me. It just simply can't do it. It sounds so muffled and weird. Let's switch to the 50s. And here we go in the 50s. I can hear the kids in the background. A little cleaner and clearer than the Neumanns. Much more soundstage width, more airy, more room to the presentation, meaning it sounds like I'm outside listening to the song on loudspeakers versus stuck inside a room listening to them. With this song, the 50s are a little muddy at higher volume. But when the instruments actually do play, like the guitar strumming, it's very clean and undistorted. It's just that there's that high pitch frequency that's playing in the back that either seems a little too emphasized or simply can't be separated amongst everything else. And that's seemingly overpowering a lot of the other details in the song. Okay, so I think we finally found a song that the 50s simply do not do well on or with, and that's New Light by Kazuki. The NDH didn't do well on it. The HP50 don't do well on it. But if I had to pick between the two, I would pick the HP50 because, if for nothing else, they provide a wider soundstage, more clarity to the actual instruments when they are played, and more definition to them. Whereas with the Neumann, everything sounds closed off. Everything sounds... The muffling is probably about the same on these two headphones. But the steely kind of weird presentation, as if you're stuck inside a small room listening to it on the Neumann, that's a big turnoff. The way that a song is produced can often help you just disregard or ignore some of the other faults of the headphone with that song. So lacking a whole lot of detail, being a little bit too muddy in a particular frequency range. You might be able to forgive those things or ignore those things if the sound stage and the depth to the song and the clarity where the instruments come in, if that is present, you might say, I can live with some of that muddiness. That's a personal preference. But I can't even imagine the Neumanns ever reaching that level with this song. Whereas with the HP50, problems, certainly, but greater soundstage, better definition and clarity with the guitar and the piano, and certainly not much clarity to the electronic sound, whatever it is in the background. Okay, there you go. Well over an hour, and what can I say? I'm just, there's a lot. We skipped a lot of songs here, and I could spend all day doing this, but I think it's fairly clear to me that the NAD HP50 is the superior headphone, in my personal opinion, for all the reasons I've just articulated going through all of these songs. Do you want to know how much I paid for the HP50? $115, 115. That's how much I paid, or maybe it's 117. Either 115 or 117, one of the two. That's how much I paid. And the Neumanns cost $500. And the Neumann simply can't compete. Now, you might say to yourself, whoa, this doesn't sound right. The Neumanns are more expensive. They are 5 times more expensive than the HP50. How is this possible? Cost doesn't mean better. Cost means some other things. Sound, you may not get better sound with greater cost. Not always. You will probably get greater build quality, better customer service, more name recognition with a higher cost. But you may not get better sound quality with higher cost. That being said, the Neumanns, they're just not capable of producing clean, differentiated, distinct, articulate, unmuffled sound. Every song that we've listened to them with, it's like, yes, I understand you really want to smooth things out. I appreciate that. But that doesn't mean that you have to muddy the water. It doesn't mean that you just refuse to give me the detail. And it refuses to give the detail. And when the Neumann is compared to a headphone that is apparently designed to provide that type of detail, it's a no-brainer. It's not even a contest. It's like Usain Bolt running a competition against a high school kid who runs track every once in a while. That's the type of difference I'm talking about. I mean, I'm exaggerating, I know. But it seems as if the HP50 simply took the show, minus the last song by Kazuki, which both headphones had a problem with. But for that, the HP50 simply performs significantly, noticeably better than the Neumann. Okay? So cost doesn't mean better. The Neumann are better built than the HP50. There is no doubt in my mind about that. They look better to me. They certainly feel better. They're made of better materials. But they don't sound as good. Now, the other argument might be, but Zeos said, right? But Zeos said that the Neumanns are fantastic headphones. Well, you know what? Hey, did you know that Zeos actually had the HP50 in his hand once, many years ago? I could not find a video, an actual review of him reviewing the HP50 on his channel. All I saw was a comparison of 4 headphones that he had on a table, and the HP50 happened to be one of those 4. And do you know how much time he spent talking about the HP50? A few minutes. He was more concerned about just general commentary and build quality and style. Made very little, if any, mention about each individual headphone's sound signature. That is the only thing I've watched from Zeos about the HP50. He didn't have the HP50. It is evident to me that he did not have that headphone when he listened to the Neumanns. And so, you can do whatever you want. You can choose to believe Zeos if you want. If you feel as if Zeos provided you accurate information, and I am not, that is perfectly within your realm of decision making. You get to make that choice. But I ask you to consider the following factors before you reach that conclusion, or any conclusion really. Number 1, did Zeos in his review of the Neumanns provide you detailed examination of the headphone in question, meaning the 20, the Neumann? Did he provide you a detailed explanation as to how these headphones respond to a number of songs? Let's say any number of songs, 2 to 5 to 10, doesn't matter. Did he play those songs and in your presence on the video explain to you what he was hearing? The answer is no. Did Zeos provide you detailed explanation how the Neumanns compared to other similarly marketed headphones? He did not, other than mentioning that he is no longer going to use the Mr. Speaker's Ether C Flow. We've done the test on that. Did Zeos explain to you what in his esteem, in his experience, in his great valued opinion, makes him say that the Neumanns are excellent for critical listening? Did Zeos at any point indicate to you, in any way, shape, or form during his review, that the Neumanns have a smooth tonality to them and how that would impact how the song is presented? And whether that is, in fact, the type of presentation somebody who is mixing and mastering and producing in a studio, if that is the type of presentation those professionals would prefer to have. I also submit for your consideration whether Zeos at any point during his review articulated to you how the Neumanns would perform with songs relating with piano, or complex mixes, or vocals, or one something like Kazuki's New Light. There are a number of other questions that you could pose. And I suspect that the answer to all, if not most, if not all of the questions I just suggested to you is no. Zeos did not conduct a thorough examination. When you find that to be true, you must disregard the reviewer's opinion. You must. Otherwise, you're not being fair to yourself. Now, you may just watch his videos for the entertainment value. I understand that. That's, whatever. But if you are out looking for headphones to buy and you go to Zeos and you watch his reviews, in my opinion, you deserve better. You deserve actual facts that you can rely on. Something that you can listen to when you do choose to buy the headphones. You do get them. You say, I want to be able to test these headphones immediately and see if this is for me. And you go to the video and you watch that video and you listen for that portion of the song, and then you determine, do I hear the same thing that that person is hearing? If you are not permitted to have that experience, that testing capability, what is the reviewer doing for you other than being somewhat jovial and clownish? I'm just asking questions. Zeos was wrong about the Neumanns. I am not going to debate this with him. He doesn't even know I exist, and he wouldn't care anyway. This is it. I am not going to have a debate with any Zeos fanboy who says, but Zeos is God. Great. Then you go watch his video, and you buy everything that he tells you to buy. I am telling you, based upon my repeated tests with the Neumanns, how they sound. And now with the test with the HP50, I tell you from experience, my live, well, it's recorded, but you understand, my true feelings about these headphones as they are occurring, because I have not listened to the HP50 before this. This is how it is. $115 versus $500. You do the math, ladies and gentlemen. Do you pick the more expensive headphone? And if you do, what is the justification for doing that? I am flabbergasted, truly flabbergasted, that the Neumanns performed so poorly in comparison. I didn't have an expectation when I purchased the NAD. There were so few reviews online about the NAD. And the ones that did exist were vague and incredibly unhelpful. I knew the NAD made speakers. Never heard once, not once have I heard an NAD speaker. So I can't even tell you what their sound signature is supposed to be. Went to their website, looked at their headphones, thought, God, those things are really ugly. And there's a lot of marketing stuff about room feel. What the hell is room feel? Yeah, like you can actually have sound scientists, is what they call them, sound scientists, recreate the true experience. Okay, fine, whatever. For $115, I'll give it a chance. And if it doesn't work, I'm returning it. And do you know what happened? This is what happened. This right here is what just happened. In my opinion, the HP50 has beaten the Neumann. Let that sink in for a moment. Yes, the HP50 is not as well constructed. Yes, the HP50 does not isolate sound as well as the Neumann's, not even close. Yes, the HP50 is ugly. Yes, I understand all of these things. I understand that certain individuals have hyped the Neumanns, and you are being torn from within. Which one do you pick? How could you possibly go against Zeos and his like? I can't answer that for you. I can't help you if you don't want to help yourself. That's the true fact. But what would be my incentive if you are choosing to not if you're thinking that there is doubt in what I'm saying? I will submit the following questions for you. What would be my incentive to bias myself against the Neumann? I'm on record. I've uploaded all these videos telling you how good the Neumann sound. I've told you they have a smooth tonality, and yeah, they sound really good for what they do. And I've told you repeatedly, I purchased the Neumann with my own money. I don't ask anybody for help. I don't ask you to go to Patreon and submit payment to me. I don't ask you to buy merchandise. I don't ask you to do anything. I don't have sponsors. This is me. So my investment has already been made. I shouldn't have stopped saying investment. My purchase has already been made. And then I made a $100 purchase for the HP50. So what would be my incentive to kind of talk down about the Neumann? I'm not getting anything out of it. I can't get anything out of doing that. But is there incentive for somebody who reviews headphones for a living, who gets headphones and other material, speakers, cables, from manufacturers for free, and often gets to keep the items that he gets? I'm saying he, could be a she. We're not dropping names anymore. And that this person might be more susceptible to bias than me. I'm just asking questions. Is it possible that this individual whose last name or whose name begins with the last letter in the alphabet, I am not saying who it is. We're not going down that road. We're not going to throw mud at people. Is it possible that that individual is simply not capable of making a scientific or more scientific analysis of the stuff he or she gets? Is it possible that the laws of physics and reality cease to exist at that person's doorstep? I don't know. You tell me. Okay, that's enough. Well over an hour. This is probably going to be my longest video so far, and I apologize to people who already complain about my videos being too long. But look, hey, if you want an alternative to the Neumanns, you have it at 1/5 the price, and so I think it's worth a little bit of pain of going through and listening to my video here, watching the video. If you have any questions, let me know. As far as I'm concerned, with this test at least, I'm fairly happy with the HP50. These are not going back. The HP50, simply astounding compared to the Neumann. Now, the HP50 might fall apart when compared to other headphones of better quality. That's certainly possible, and indeed it will likely happen. But we're talking about the Neumann. And the Neumanns, hey man, they got beat. They got beat good. They got a beat down. They were outside walking on a New York street late one evening, these Neumanns, listening to their own music, talking to Zeos on a cell phone, and all of a sudden, the Neumanns got jumped. They got jumped by just one person, this one headphone, and the headphone was an ugly one, kind of squirmish and thin and plasticky feeling. But that headphone, the one that jumped the Neumann, beat the ever-living crap out of the Neumann and walked away laughing. That's what happened today. Ladies and gentlemen, the HP50 has beaten the Neumann, in my opinion. I hope you have a wonderful day. I will continue to upload videos. I have some time this week, and so I will be putting it into high gear. Thank you once again for being my subscribers, and once again for supporting me with your comments and having discussions with me. I really enjoy doing that. My 100th subscriber today, thank you so much for subscribing. Hope you enjoy the content. And for all the subscribers that came before, thank you, thank you, thank you. You make this possible by your encouragement and your subscriptions. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful Monday.